So I finally have experienced Halo 4's campaign and Spartan Ops. Halo Reach was a divisive game, and I have to agree on that, but Halo still received really well despite the divisive campaign and multiplayer, while Bungie left Halo so they can make the game called Destiny. Microsoft already had plans to bring 343 Industries just to update the game for post-launch support, which they did and made 2 map packs called Defiant and Anniversary. You could say they also made Halo Combat Evolved Anniversary, but that's Saber Interactive's work, not 343 Industries. After that, they all made their vision to Halo 4. Halo Reach was one of the stories I enjoyed, and yet it was a game that was for a prequel instead of a sequel. So 343 Industries made another game that is a sequel for Halo 3, which is the perfect ending for the Halo franchise.
But you did it. Truth and the Covenant, the Flood, it's finished.
It's finished.
And this is the opportunity for a perfect sequel. And people were hyped again since we can finally play as the Master Chief, since 2 Halo games, ODST and Reach. Halo 3 is a sequel to Halo 4, but it's a different trilogy. Halo 4 is like Halo Combat Evolved enemies, elites, grunts, jackals, and hunters, the original things of it. Halo 4 for some reason feels like Halo Combat Evolved for the right or wrong reasons. Repetitive level design, check. Save Covenant AI types, check. Second mission of Halo Combat Evolved and Warhol exploration. Well, it's linear but still, check. 2 factions fighting each other, check. And so on, you get the picture. But moving on, there's some downgrades to the artificial intelligence. There's some issues with the AI with slow reactions and glitches that are sometimes hilarious. But it's still the Covenant, so you can still have fun with them with the original Covenant feel. But since they also made 3 new AIs, Watchers, Crawlers, and Promethean Knights, they're not that different. Mostly when a knight wielding a suppressor or a light rifle, it just feels the same. You'll just get killed in close range most of the time. Rarely the Promethean Knights use the ability to jump attack or charge attack. Either way, this ability feels cheap, since you cannot dodge, unless it's a jump attack. The exception is the Knights wield the Scare Shot, Binary Rifle, and the Incineration Cannon. Because at least they're different, but sometimes they frustrate you. Knights wield Cannon and Scare Shot feels like a one-shot, depends on the aiming. Even in lower difficulty, teleporting is another annoying thing, since it only delays the pace of the game. Teleporting just to spawn is a good idea, but it doesn't make sense why you don't use teleport for combat. Watchers don't have any difference, since they just shoot, shield, and revive, and summon enemies in mid-firefight. Crawlers have different spikes, but rarely do they feel dynamic. They can go through walls, which is the interesting part, and also wield binary rifles, but the binary rifle part is a rare sight, and they wield a suppressor and a bolt shot, but it still feels the same, except for their HP, and they cannot throw grenades. At least the Covenant still affects their role. The Sniper Marksman is different from a Sniper Jackal. Grunts can wield a Needler, Plasma Pistol, and an overcharged Plasma Pistol, and throw grenades. And since Halo 3 Suicide Grunts exist, it's no surprise Halo 4 Suicide Grunts exist. Jackals at least still have different roles, Shield, Sniper, and Marksman. Elites still have that same role, dodge, cover, throw grenades, and the Halo Reach broken melee system. They wield the usual guns just like the series always have been. One last issue I want to talk about, the Prometheans feels the same as the Covenant, for better or worse. This isn't a huge deal for me, but it feels the same instead of a difference. Weapons in the Bungie games don't have that impactful effect, but I like the Halo Combat Evolved Assault Rifle and the Halo 2 Battle Rifle.
I need a squad at Habitat Alpha ASAP.
But Halo Bungie doesn't have that impactful effect, like the Halo 3 assault rifle, since it sounds like a BB gun. So 343 Industries decided to change that, making the guns have that punch like the assault rifle and other UNSC weapons. And it's awesome. Gun sounds are quite awesome and more of that realism. Weapons have their issues and few guns are quite useless. The suppressor is so useless that it's not satisfying to use, and after you finish a few encounters in Heroic, you lose a lot of ammo. Instead of using the two weapons that you like to hold, you instead scavenge the weapons that are useless or not good for comboing, just to get ready for the next encounter. You struggle finding ammo in Heroic and Legendary, since the broken melee animation still exists with the Elites, Crawlers, and the Promethean Knights. There's some Promethean weapons that are carbon copped, like the light rifle is the mixture of the DMR and the bell rifle. The Scar Shot is better than the UNSC shotgun, since the Scar Shot has a faster fire rate. That's just an example. All of the UNSC and Covenant weapons are still the same, but the Storm Rifle and the Plasma Pistol gives you low ammo, and you can run out of ammo only in the first encounter. There's also two new power weapons, the Binary Rifle and the Incineration Cannon. The Incineration Cannon in the Binary Rifle is fun to use, only if you're in control with it, but it's not fun when, like I said in the Promethean Knights, getting one shot. Halo 4 is a game that is like Halo 2 fast movement, with the additional of sprint. Halo isn't a game where you kill fast and go fast, that's just my personal opinion. I can still have fun with the game, despite its fast movements, with sprint, but I can appreciate when the pacing is perfect, and the campaign maps, while repetitive, the firefight and the pacing are really well. The level design is decent, Halo 2 style, but there's level design that can open up and squeeze you later. And one mission that is my favorite is One Last Shot. The pacing is perfect, and 117 is one of those soundtracks I love. Halo 1 is repetitive, but it can open up like the Mission 2 of Combat Evolved. Halo 2 is decent but no repetitive level design. Halo 3 and Reach is a bit linear to some vehicle sections like Halo Reach and maybe Halo 3, but Halo 4 carried that small issue it had. There's a missed opportunity to make vehicles very open like the tank section and the Mantis section. I'm not saying the Infinity mission is bad, in fact this is one of the missions that is my favorite. Sure, the vehicles are linear, but at least it's enjoyable and not long. And the Mantis section blew me away by their different weapons of the Mantis, but it's just a one-man vehicle. I don't say the missions in Halo 4 are bad, it's just not interesting. The same mission, Infinity mission, has the big guns of the tank section, which is called the Bungie style vehicles, and the other one is 343 Industry style vehicles. I'm not against linear paths, as long as you won't wait for 30 seconds or a minute for the action, which one mission did, the Mammoth. This mission can be very boring. At the same time, the vehicle sections are at least enjoyable, but waiting for 30 seconds for the action is not enjoyable. While Halo game's level design is improving, Halo 4 is a step down, which is disappointing. Linear paths are not the issue for me, but it won't make people replay the games, because it will be the same thing and there's no difference. Most introductions in the campaign are shown to you. While Halo 4 has great presentation to its atmosphere, it sometimes has that mystery to it. The music has that exact timing, and sometimes it works in the levels, since it syncs perfectly in a positive way.
There it is! No light!
Infinity.
While it wasn't made by Marty and Michael because they're the composer for Bungie, it still holds up due to the editing and the syncing moments of the music. It's the least memorable to the franchise or the second least memorable, depends on your personal preference. Neil and Kazumi know they can't match the original feeling, so they decided to make their own pathways, and it works and has those moments. The first intro is Halsey talking about this Oni guy about being her the responsible for the Spartan 2 program and creating the Master Chief. At first sight that should be the Master Chief, but the second flashback should be the original Spartan, but they look like Master Chief. I was wondering if the Brute still exists. Well, we only just saw the Gravity Hammer and the Brute Chieftain itself, and we wonder if the Elites still have that favorite plasma rifle again. but we only got the storm rifle instead of the plasma rifle. That Spartan should be Chief, but maybe that's not him. And Halsey giving Cortana to Master Chief, is this a flashback or a flash forward? Since Halsey and Reach gives Cortana to Noble 6.
Take it, Lieutenant. She has made her choice. Do you have it?
Yes,
Say the words, please.
I have it.
This scene without a doubt should be removed, but at least this scene is about the Spartan 2 program and the reference of the ending of Halo Reach.
Master Chief is dead.
His file reads missing in action.
But this scene is so confusing that the new players and the old players, myself included, won't even understand anything in this scene. The ideas are interesting, but they're not mentioned or explored through the campaign. 4 years later, the sound, music, and Cortana wakes Chief up, setting a new adventure for the Chief and his AI companion, Cortana. While you woke up, you explore around and meet the entire fleet of the Covenant. Then Cortana tells you something, tells you to fire the ship manually. So Chief goes outside, grabs a battle rifle, then kills the Covenant like the usual. Then after that, you get randomly scanned, then the planet opens up just to suck you in, and the Covenant fleet in. The only thing that I understand is Chief and his broken AI, making the writers focus on Chief and Cortana rather than the Forerunner plot to make it as a subplot. This is one of the best stories of Halo 4 and its impact on the series. We understand the Chief's personality instead of a flat character and their dynamic difference, but it can also damage the flat character, like what Joe said, why it's a success to Master Chief.
One of the keys to the success of the story is we didn't pump a lot of time into figuring out who the Master Chief was and why he was a ghost in his shell. We thought he is a husk. He's a big green suit of armor that you move around.
But it's a preference. I'm fine if Chief is more talkable, but I wish they made the transition more smoothly. And though Cortana has malfunctions, she still is that original Cortana we know due to the familiar reference to the other Halo games.
Don't make a girl a promise you can't keep.
Don't make a girl a promise if you know you can't keep it.
And instead of shooting everything just like in Halo 3, we instead see Cortana sacrificing herself just to save you, aka the Master Chief, just to see her touching your armor before her death. This scene alone made people emotional since your partner died when you know her for 3 to 4 games, if you want to include Reach. Having to sleep in space, the Pelican found you and rescued you. The Marines and Spartans salute you, the Chief is looking at Earth, and Lasky showed up just to talk to you, knowing what it's like to lose a partner you have known for so long, which made the Chief think about this.
She said that to me once. About being a machine.
But the true ending is Didac about the mantle of responsibility while at the same time removing his armor to reveal his face, knowing the Chief is human instead of a robot. Before we go to my confusion, we have to go to the second act. The librarian snatched Cortana and teleports you out of nowhere, gave us exposition about the Forerunner and the Didac. She also gives you the power order just to get immune to the Composer. This scene made me confused, since this is the important part where you need to know about the Didac, the Forerunners, and others that I didn't understand. It just only progressed the plot. Halo Combat Evolved introduced us to these terminals, so it's no surprise Halo 4 has these terminals are known, about why the Covenant came to Rec Room and who leads them, the Didac and the Librarian relationship, the Forerunners, what the Composer do, how the Promethean Knights created, and the return of the Flood. And the terminals explain more about the Didac, which is the good thing, because in the game, we barely, not barely, saw him twice in the main game. If you want to watch these terminals, you can find them for their achievements to the Master Chief Collection, or search it on the internet. Halo 4 is a game that I appreciate despite its new enemies not being that dynamic, downgraded AI, and lack of ammo. It's still a solid game. This campaign can be argued as the worst or best story to the franchise due to the Master Chief and Cortana dynamics and its confusing Forerunner plot that you can only learn through the terminals. It still has these moments like the other Halo games despite the changes to art design, characters, and etc. In summary, this game's campaign is like ODST. ODST and Halo 4 it can appeal to old and new fans. At the same time, it doesn't appeal to old and new fans, and also takes a different approach. I won't talk much about the gameplay since I only play Spartan Ops alone, but I'll talk about the story. But before, I want to say this real quick, that carries Halo 4's campaign issues, the level design being repetitive, and the objectives, and the downgraded AI. Don't get me wrong, there's some moments also, but most of the time, it becomes the same thing. Spartan Ops is a firefight mode, at the same time it's another Halo 4 story. For those who don't know what firefight is, it's a game mode where you fight wave after wave of enemies, and have fun with your friends. Or you can go solo, if you're lonely. So making Spartans canon, and knowing about the Spartan 4 operations, how they do this, and Halsey finally plays a role, instead of her being in one scene that never explored. And also the reason why the Covenant was in Recon at the first place. I love Spartan Ops ideas about 4 of us go to the operations, expanding the story. Halo 4, while people don't like Spartan Ops, I disagree. There's some moments I love, like Lasky using a shotgun just to kill the Promethean Knight alone, Requiem blowing up, and for some reason I love the goofy dialogue to Joel M. Dama saying Glassman. But that's just me. Defending with the Marines and the sentry guns are quite memorable. I wanna say spoilers. This is the part I'll talk about the ending. Halsey went to this portal and Librarian gave her the keys for every location, installation, technology, any location. It can be split in half, and Halsey threw the half to the UNSC, and one was taken by Joel and Dama. While having a failed assassination at the same time, Joel escaped because the Knight can somehow teleport him to safety. Just like the Halo 2 developer says.
Oh, you know, when it's hard to get from one place in the Halo universe to another, you know what you do? You teleport.
And it ends on a cliffhanger that Halsey wants revenge on the UNSC or the Covenant, and her arm was cut off. You remember those keys for every location? It's in the books called Halo Escalation that instead ended and carried over Halo 5's story. I like the ideas of Firefight being an expanded story, but mostly the execution is not good. Having a villain that goes to Halo 5 is one of those things that Spartan Ops story is like thrown into trash and abandoned. But I appreciate 343 Industries in the MCC making all episodes free, and you can also watch as a theater if you're bored and want to have fun with your friends. You can play Spartan Ops if you're dried out in Firefight or mostly have curiosity to start to finish.